settle in and listen to our mixtape and know the music vanishes. Enjoy your buttons sandwiches.
Hey, so we're sitting here with Aaron from Horrorhound Magazine, Horrorhound Weekend. Could you just give us a quick description of what Horrorhound is in general?
Sure. Jeremy Sheldon, Nathan Hanneman, and I established Horrorhound in 2005. Horrorhound started out as a quarterly magazine. We pretty quickly moved into bi-monthly status. We had our first Horrorhound Weekend event in 2007, which was pretty quick, coming off starting a magazine. And we started our film festival, and from there we created Horrorhound Records, Horrorhound Films. So Horrorhound kind of has become like a brand name, sort of, as well as a convention and a magazine. So it's kind of cool.
Okay. Yeah, it's especially for those of what's really cool about it is living near it, which is I live near it. It's huge here. But you start finding out it's not just huge here anymore. It's like people from all over come out for Horrorhound, and I remember seeing it small and watching it grow. It's been pretty amazing. You were talking a little bit about the magazine. You guys just hit issue 100. I saw the artwork for that on Facebook, and it was really cool looking. What was that like, hitting such a milestone with a magazine?
Oh, awesome. Huge accomplishment. It's funny because we do spring and fall specials also. So we've actually technically made over 100 magazines already, but for the, main magazine to hit issue 100 was really cool accomplishment. We've been doing, for like 19 years of making magazines and putting on conventions and well, not quite 19 years for conventions, but quickly approaching that. It's just been wild. It's kind of surreal sometimes because, they don't come out every month. So it feels like we're making a magazine every month because you're always editing the next issue. So you kind of have to be in sync. And in order to do that, it's like you're constantly doing it. Sometimes we forget that because we're so busy. And then, like, for example, we have to edit a magazine right before we do the convention, and then we also have to edit the spring special, both. And that's coming off of doing all this other stuff, like planning the whole year's worth of issues and content and stuff like that, which we still need to get back to. There's just never enough time. But
funny. It's funny in the world of magazines because, like, when you think about all the magazines that didn't make it, but there seems like film magazines and horror magazines and things like that, they still seem to thrive. Like, I think like the fans of those sorts of things like love to have that, one, the artwork, and two, like they love to have that like physical thing in hand. I think that's pretty cool to know that the magazine has lasted this long and seems to just be getting bigger all the time, which is really cool.
I know everybody said that we were kind of crazy for going into physical media as far as, a magazine, because it was a kind of a dying medium, I guess. Everybody thought, we've seen newspapers go away. That's kind of wild. But I think it's actually, if anything, it helps the convention, and the convention helps the magazine. They kind of feed each other. Because like you were saying earlier about, how big, I didn't realize how big it'd become either until we started having people show up from like Alaska and Australia and Japan. And like, immediately I'm like, where'd you hear about us? How'd you find out? And some of them online, but a lot of them are like, oh, I got it from the magazine. And I'm like, oh, really? You have a magazine over there? They're like, yeah, our comic shop carries your magazine.
That's awesome.
In the UK, I think there's a big comic book store out there. I can't remember the name of it. And they carry it. So it's like kind of cool that people in other countries know us better than some people, and some of the states don't know about us. Yeah. And a lot of people think Horrorhound was a magazine. They just thought it was a convention. For a lot of times I'll go out on stage and I'll be like, show of hands, how many people collect Horrorhound magazine? And then, you'll get a few hands, and I'll go, how many people knew Horrorhound was a magazine? And you get more hands, and you're like, oh, wow, okay. We're not doing a good job of advertising the magazine, I guess.
You need to
That's
do the
okay.
follow up. How many of you are going to go get it now and subscribe that I told you it was a magazine?
Yeah, we hope, but no, that's okay. It's raising awareness. That's the first step. So
Yeah.
I'll work on that more. We used to, when we first started the magazine, the very first event we went to promote, we went to San Diego Comic-Con, and we had these crummy little cutout pieces of paper that were, just printed like Horrorhound magazine. Didn't even have our final logo ready or anything yet. And we're walking around, anybody with a horror shirt, we're like, here, take this, and that's how you start the do-it-yourself attitude. Any business, every single person that you can potentially get them to at least know your name or recognize you and maybe buy a product in the future or name drop you to somebody they know who's into that. It all adds up. I feel like it does, at least.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
a little while ago, Jay mentioned the artwork, and the artwork on the covers is great, and so are the ones on your yearly T-shirt design. Who comes up with those? Because those are really cool and really memorable.
Well, normally me and Nathan will come up with ideas for the magazine covers. A lot of times, we kind of are. It depends. Like if a studio reaches out to us and they have a film they want to promote, they might send us early images, like we did the last Voyage of the Demeanor. We put that on the cover. Because they got in touch with us and they were like, look, we'll give you interviews with everybody. We're like, oh, okay. So it's kind of a trade-off sometimes. As far as the artwork itself, we try to feature an artist spotlight, which is a column that we run in the magazine. It's reoccurring. And the goal obviously with that article is to spotlight an artist that maybe doesn't get a lot of recognition or isn't well known. A lot of Mondo artists can fall into that, where people just don't know them, and then you get to kind of show off their artwork and you let them have a shot at the cover sometimes, and that's kind of a great way to help them promote themselves through the magazine. Jason Edmonston, for example, we use Jason a lot. He's a friend and he's been collaborating with us for a very, very long time, and his artwork's absolutely amazing. And then we have Jeff Rebner, who kind of helped us create the Horrorhound. A lot of the inside art you see on the toy pages, we kind of make it look like a comic book, frames and stuff, and you'll always see a weird Horrorhound at the top. He's either like Bruce Campbell as Horrorhound or something funny like Crypt Keeper. Jeff Rebner draws a lot of that stuff. Even Nathan Hanneman, who's the editor-in-chief, he'll even do artwork sometimes for the convention shirts, pins, inside the magazine, stuff like that. So it's kind of a collaborative of a lot of people making the decisions on what's going to go on the cover, but the artwork generally comes down to me and Nathan's decision. So we just
really cool that you guys do that. I can attest that artists being at the con that's kind of a big deal for you guys. You always have
yeah.
a plethora of different artists that show
Yeah.
up at the cons, and you guys, they don't just show up. You guys give them billing on the website so people know they're going to be there when they come out. I've always thought that was really cool that you guys do that.
Yeah, that's actually how I came across one of my favorite artists from you guys is Joel Robinson.
Yeah,
he's been with you guys pretty much every time. Great guy. Met him several times. Bought some of his artwork. Yeah.
I know. Every time I come out to Horrorhound, I usually walk away with somebody's artwork almost every time.
Mm.
It's just one of those things. You're walking by somebody's booth and you're like, oh man, that's friggin' awesome. And you end up walking away. So it's really cool to hear that you guys spotlight them in the magazine, and that you let different kind of unknown artists get to show their work on the magazine, on the covers and things like that. It's really cool to actually to hear about that and to get to see that. You said that the magazine's been going on for about 19 years. The con's been going on for what, 15 years? About 15 years now?
Yeah,
somewhere
around there. Yeah.
I want to say I started coming out number 3 or 4, I think, somewhere in there. So we've been coming out for a long time too. In all that time, how have you seen it change throughout the years? What have you seen as far as? I mean, I can speak from personal experience coming out, but as somebody behind the scenes, how have you seen it change over the years?
It's funny because you start out, when we started doing it, horror conventions were still kind of, small. It wasn't a big business like it is now or anything. So you had there were comic conventions and there were horror conventions. And obviously we want to do a horror convention right off. And we ended up doing it a lot quicker than we expected. And it went pretty good. We'd have maybe 2,000-3,000 people show up. We'd be really excited about that because that's a good turnout for a horror convention back then. And I think it was when we ended up booking Clive Barker and George Romero at the same show. And that was when we were like, oh, wow, this is what it looks like when we're really busy. There was a line around the building the entire weekend for George. It was crazy.
I was in that line.
Yeah. So that's when we were like, okay, this is what we need to be doing more of, is striving for this kind of crowd. And then, obviously we kept doing that the best we could. And then, a little show, The Walking Dead, came along and totally injected adrenaline into the horror convention, business, I guess you could say. And all of a sudden you started seeing all these new people coming out. And that was exciting for us. I know a lot of the horror fans, it's kind of you're walking on our territory. We don't, they weren't really super accepting at first, but I always looked at it look, I want to turn anybody into a horror fan I can, right? There's never going to be too many of us. So I thought that was great. That was a good gateway drug for people. And then you get them in the show and you start introducing them to everything else. And I still see people, coming to the show from that time period, as well as the old fans still coming. So it just grew, and it's been growing ever since. And more people is never a bad thing. But yeah, I don't know. It's crazy. Just see how many people show up now. I mean, I'm trying to remember the exact, I asked Nathan what number, and I can't remember what he told me. We see over the course of the 3 days. I want to say he said 22,000 people over the course of a 3-day weekend. It's pretty wild.
Good problem.
Being massive. There's a lot of people there. I will tell you that. Which is awesome for you guys. Of course, for me back in those early days, I could just walk up to people. It was great, but I'm so glad to see that it's grown, because it could have been one of those things where potentially if it didn't grow, it didn't keep happening. So
right.
I'm so glad that it has, and that we've got to experience stuff. Yeah, it's been fantastic, and I've met some really crazy people. I've had some really good times. It's funny. You said that the horror, the horror crowd, hey, they're treading on our territory. I will tell anybody interested in coming out at the con, everyone's accepted. It does not matter what you're dressed like, how you act. It's you're accepted, and that is one of the coolest things I think I've got to experience at the cons. Is I've seen people bring their kids. I've seen people that didn't know each other strike up French. Well,
I said,
I know Matt, and the first time we met at the show was at a Horrorhound. And honest to God, I have met some of the best friends I have in my life today at your con. So the con itself is just a great place to hang out and accepting of everybody. And so thanks for that, man. I appreciate it. But I blame you for Matt. But thanks for everything else.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's the beauty of it is, when we started doing the magazine, I met so many people just through creating the magazine that are still friends to this day. And, knowing that that we inadvertently help you guys connect as friends, that it's just, everything is kind of, it's just cool how it's all interconnected. I love, that's my favorite part of the show is the energy that you feel when you go into the show. Cause everybody's so happy, and we all are suffering at our 9-to-5 jobs. And then this is the place where we get to go to be happy. And it's we've been suffering so long to get to this, and it's, once you get there, everybody's just happy to be there. And it's a great experience. And I love the energy, like I said.
Yeah. We've got a friend flying. Well, you probably know him. I almost guarantee you know him, but Patrick from Scream Queens, the podcast. He's flying in from New York. He's going to be staying with me to go to Horrorhound. Matt flies in from Missouri and stays with us to go to Horrorhound. It's just been
the only reason I come to Cincinnati.
You're in Missouri.
Nine Living podcast.
You don't come from
he comes. I call it misery. He lives right outside Kansas City, so I give him a hard time all the time because Kansas City. But the guys from Night Living podcast, that was sort of they're always out there. They're always doing stuff out there, and I met them through it. So it's been great. And I will tell anybody who does a show, a podcast, or anything like that, come out there because you'll end up meeting like-minded people, and you'll get great tips, and you'll meet great friends, and it's a really good time. So I recommend it for that, if nothing else. But there's other reasons too.
Yeah,
trust me.
Yeah, good for networking and everything.
Yeah.
So I know the magazine's had a few spinoffs, and obviously one of those is the convention itself, but you also have a film branch and a music label, and a podcast as well that's been going for about 10 years, which is awesome for that. Everybody check that out. Links will be down in the show notes. Jay will make sure of that. So could you talk a little bit about that and let us know some of the things you guys have done along those lines?
Sure. So with the record label, that was kind of a weird thing that came out of nowhere. Nathan and his wife, Jessica Hanneman, who's also a big part of Horrorhound. We all love horror rock music, like bands that were inspired by the Misfits and whatnot, psychobilly kind of stuff. And we were, we didn't really strike out to do that particular only style of music. We wanted to do different stuff. So, but it ended up being horror rock was the thing that kind of made sense. We also worked with Harley Poe out of Kokomo, Indiana, which, Joe and them, they're just absolutely incredible musicians and people. And it was fun as hell to work with them. We released a record with them under the Horrorhound Records label. For the Wolf is a really cool band. We worked with them. We put out a cover album that had like all these cover songs. And this was like a nightmare project that Nathan, I don't think he realized what he was getting into, what he got into it. But getting the rights to do cover songs, we had to learn how all that worked. And then we were, to try to get another band to cover that song for you, and to coordinate all these different bands doing that for a full album was pretty insane. But once we got it done, it was really cool. And For the Wolf, I think they did The Man Behind the Mask, the Alice Cooper song from Friday Part 6, as their cover song. And we had a couple other bands that, obviously weren't even on Horrorhound Records label that contributed to that. So that was cool. And Horrorhound Films, man, I wish Jeremy was on here to talk more about that. That's not really my area of expertise, but we did put out The Hanover House, I think was the first film that we released. And then recently we released a film called Portal, and Portal has Heather Landingcamp that stars in it, which is kind of cool. And I'm pretty sure those movies are both available at our table. I'm not positive on that, but they're out there. And I'm trying to think of what else. Horrorhound Records, we haven't done a whole lot lately. We did put out a 7-inch recently for, oh boy, here's that, the name thing we were talking about.
Yeah,
I
experience it all the time.
Guys upstairs, find that name for me quick. The Big Bad. The Big Bad are awesome, Zach. Those guys are incredible. More, again, kind of psychobilly horror rock. And we did a 7-inch for The Big Bad that we recently released. And but we do have plans for the future. Nothing can really discuss yet, but Horrorhound Records is far from over. And Horrorhound Films also is got some stuff in the works as well.
That's cool. And that's not all, guys. They also do things like release tiki mugs. I kid you not. And apparel and buttons and all kinds of cool stuff. So I'm like,
I picked up one of your buttons last time I saw you guys.
I didn't mention Horrorhound Radio. I'm sorry, but yeah. So we've been doing Horrorhound Radio. It's been mostly Freddie Morris of Night Living Podcast and Jason Cretton and Nathan. And when Nathan can be there, which is hard for him sometimes. And but we've been doing the podcast for a long time. Horrorhound Radio, we're going to expand it. It's going to start spinning out now because it's been a lot of work for all of us to consistently keep it going. So we want other people to start kind of coming on and being host, and like, for example, I'm going to try, I can't promise, but I'm going to try to get Zoe, who runs our film festival, to be on an episode and talk about the film festival itself in great detail, so people know what kind of films we'll be screening, and just the inner workings of the film festival, for those that don't know. And then other people particular assets. So just breaking it down so we have more than just 4 horror guys talking about and laughing a lot on an episode, and trying to have more detailed stuff out there as well. And also, obviously, we have a YouTube channel, so we want to start recording like you guys are doing now. Stuff like that.
I will preemptive it before Matt gets there. We'll put a link to the podcast in the show notes, because he calls me out on these things, because I hate writing show notes. I don't know why. It is the thing I hate. I will write all kinds of questions. I'll write scripts, but I'll write a novel. But what I hate is show notes for some reason. And he'll constantly go, Jay will put that in the show notes. I'm like, thanks, Matt. I appreciate that. But I will put that in the show notes so people can get to the podcast as well, because we recommend heading over and checking that out too, because there's nothing wrong with 4 guys talking about shit and laughing. That's exactly what we do.
I know. But 10 years of just recording like that's been stressful for us. We're like, can someone else record too and kind of help us out here? Every once in a while, we would do interviews, but predominantly we're not the most organized people, because we got crazy lives, and we'll just kind of be like 2 days before we're going to record, we would be like, what are we going to talk about? Okay, let's talk about this. Okay, let's just do it. Freddie is a very big advocate of podcasting should be raw, so we never edit our episodes either, which can be fun and kind of embarrassing at times, but we just said the hell with it. I mean, we're just having fun, and it's kind of like you're saying, that it's just a bunch of guys. You're sitting in a room with a bunch of horror fans, listening to them discuss whatever topic it is they're discussing, which people love that. So nothing wrong with that.
Nope, we love that. So
big fans.
It's good. It's good with us. So I have to know, like, when it comes time to like have guests at the cons, or I guess even people you interview for the magazine, how do you guys go about that? Like how do you choose who's going to be at different cons, or who you want to be at different cons, and who have some of your favorite guests been?
He's like, that's a deep question right there.
It is. That's a very, very deep question. But we work closely with a lot of celebrity talent managers, and they acquire talent over the years, and it just kind of comes together in a lot of different ways. Sometimes you can't always get the celebrities you want, so sometimes it's just due to their working. Sometimes the guarantees are too steep. You can't make it work. You're trying to work it out with the managers. It's not always possible to make it. It's more of a financial thing, I should say, sometimes. But we try our best to like get celebrities that we personally would want to see as fans. I mean, we went to shows long before we started doing them, so we look at who's been, who's doing it regularly. Obviously people want something new and exciting and fresh. Like, Eli Roth hasn't exactly made the rounds yet, so he's kind of a new name on the circuit right now. So that's exciting to be one of the first events that he's done since he started doing them. Always trying to go for that, trying to get the, exclusive guest when you can, or be the first is nice. Doesn't always happen, but it's okay. I always look at it like, you're always going to get a lot of local people with a local event. They're going to be your strongest supporters. If I go to, like, say, Scarefest in Lexington, there's tons of people there that they don't come to Horrorhound. I've never seen them before, but they're there to support their local show because it's right there. So often when I go to other shows, I'll see people I know that are willing to travel to shows, but it's mostly the local people that come out to support those shows. And I think sometimes people decide on the celebrities based on, that, like what they think the people that regularly attend their show will want. Like having wrestlers at a horror convention. I mean, people are like, that doesn't make any sense. Well, it makes perfect sense. I mean, a lot of wrestlers are in horror films, not even the ones that aren't. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
I've seen, Butterbean does Scarefest regularly. He's a boxer. I mean, what's wrong with that? It's okay. So I think it's just trying to, bring celebrities in that people are going to want to meet. It's cool when you can do reunions. Like we were able to pull everybody together for Cabin Fever. That was awesome. I didn't think we were going to be able to pull that off, and it happened. I was blown away by that. So sometimes the stars align, sometimes they don't. Gosh, I'm sorry. I'm straying away from your question a little bit.
Oh, you're right on question. I will say though, you talked about wrestlers, and look, everyone knows it's not a far leap to see wrestling fans and horror fans being into the same stuff. I know because I'll probably be at this Horrorhound with a wrestling / horror fan. So, I mean, two of them actually that are massive fans of both genres, and they're very excited. Plus, Kevin Nash. All right. Kevin Nash was Shredder, Super Shredder, and that's cool enough for me. That's all I got to say.
Kevin Nash. Real Punisher movie, so you got that too.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, but I'm excited.
So I got
also. Sorry, go ahead, Matt.
No, I was going to say I have kind of a off script question for you related to your guests. Yeah.
Okay.
So, all the money in the world, dream guest that you've never had at the show. Who would you like to have for Aaron?
For Aaron.
Yeah. Who would you like to have
me personally
at Horrorhound who's never been there before?
Well, there's one name that we got so close to. We were so close. It kills me. Kurt Russell. We were so close.
Awesome.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That line.
Yeah.
That line would have been fun.
Inside the building all the way around, outside the building all the way around. Yeah.
Not giving up on it, but yeah, it didn't happen. We were close. There was a time where we almost had Sam Neill. That was really exciting. So yeah,
you just broke Jason's heart there.
I'm reorganizing, so it's not hanging.
Yeah,
but I have Sam Neill's autograph.
We lost so many good people, and there's so many names there that I would have, I would have thrown over the years. We were real close. Wes Craven was literally about to attend Horrorhound, and when he was, literally ready to pass away, which was
like
off
or something.
But it was cool that we got to do a little bit of a tribute for him there at the end. But Bill Paxton was always a big one for me and Nathan. That one of the white whale that we always wanted, and it was really tragic to find out when he passed away, because I think he was just getting ready to start doing conventions more too right before that. So yes, there's a lot of Italian directors. I'm a big fan of like foreign horror. So there's like Gaspar Noé would be a really big one for me. It's just a language barrier a lot of times with bringing them in. Takashi Miike would be a really cool one,
That would be awesome.
So there's a ton. I mean, we've had some dream guests, like kind of going back to Jason's question before that about who were some of our favorite or my favorite people that we've had. Ruggiero Diodato is probably right there on the top, near the top for me. He was just fantastic. In Italy, for example, if you're a horror director or horror actor, you really don't get a lot of notoriety. In fact, you're kind of like considered, like looked down on a little bit, which is really sad to hear. I think it's different nowadays, but back when we started doing conventions, it was kind of like that. And Al Cliver, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Al Cliver. He's in Zombie. He's in Endgame, a bunch of Italian horror films. He's like a very well-known actor. And he agreed to come with Ottaviano Dell'Acqua. That's a fun name to say. Ottaviano is the worm-eyed zombie from the movie zombie that's on the movie poster, you know, with the zombie, with the worms out of his eyes. And Ottaviano's another one who's just like a staple in Italian horror. He's a stuntman, so he's doing a lot of stuff, but you never see his face, kind of like Kane Hodder, sort of, in a way. So anyway, Ottaviano and Al came, and Al had laryngitis and he couldn't really speak very good. So he was doing his best to talk to everybody the whole weekend. And he got home, and we got this really nice letter from his wife. And she said, I just wanted to thank you for having Al at your event. He was really down on himself and his career, didn't think anything really mattered. He was kind of depressed. And, you know, going to your show and meeting all these people that love his movies and him really helped put a pep back in his step. He's just got, you know, he's so much better now and happier. And I just want to thank you for kind of giving him that ability to connect, you know, with those, with his fans. And that was huge, you know. And then with Ruggiero, we were walking around with him, and he's a very sweet man, but everybody's terrified of him because of Cannibal Holocaust. Like, people wouldn't go up to him because that movie was so intimidating, you know. And I had to take people up to meet him, and they're like, "Oh my God, he's awesome!" And I'm like, "There you go, see." And but he was blown away because he had just come from another convention, and I won't say the name of the convention, sponsored by a big horror magazine. And they kind of like kept him, you know, sectioned off away from the fans, because a lot of conventions were very kind of impersonal. You know, I remember the days of going to shows where, you know, it was very, you were herded through. You didn't even get to really talk to them. You get your autograph and move on. That still occurs to some degree. But he had been at one of those events, and then he got to our show, and he's right there, like, you know, can physically touch people. And he just was like, oh my gosh, this is so much better. And then, like, I mean, this girl came up, she had a tattoo of Cannibal Holocaust on her arm that she was going to get him to sign and then get it tattooed, his signature. He was blown away by that.
Dedication there.
Yeah. There were a couple girls there that were flirting with him. He loved that. So he just had so much fun. And after we were closing down for the night, he walks up to me and his handler, Mike Baronis, who was probably a godsend in helping us get Italian guests and other people to the show. So he's a wonderful person. And so me and Mike are walking, and he kind of takes our hand because, you know, in Italy, I guess, kind of that's a thing they do. And we're walking, and he has this big teardrop rolls down his cheek, and he looks at us and he goes, "This is like the best day of my life." And I'm just like, oh my God, that's so cool to give back to somebody like that, you know, who did so much, you know, in shaping my love of horror and everything. I mean, and scaring the shit out of me a little bit too. So it's pretty intense. But yeah, I just love that. The Italian, you know, actors are without doubt some of my favorite people. But, you know, there's a lot of American actors that are fantastic too. There's a video, if you go on YouTube and you look up Horrorhound weekend Rubber Band War, you get a sense.
Yeah.
We were there for
We were there.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying. Danny Trejo doing barrel rolls, shooting Tom Savini with rubber bands, and Chris Sarandon's over there shooting
Chris Sarandon
elegantly across the room, and, you know, Ashley Lawrence dancing around. It was fun. We have a lot of
awesome. Chris Sarandon, like, you meet him, and he's just like kind of, he's very proper, and, you know, you don't know how to take him at first. And then later that day, you see him firing off rubber bands from across the hall. It was like one of the best things I've ever experienced. Just
I had him sign my Lipstick soundtrack, and I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Lipstick. You will have a different outlook on Chris Sarandon after you watch that movie. It is a very disturbing film, but he was happy to sign it and everything.
He's just got it ready to sign.
It sits on my desk, so I've got Chris Sarandon, and I've got Stephen Jeffrey on here. Like, both of them were on here, and got to meet them all in one weekend. It was great, man. So he's one of those dudes, you don't know how to take him at first, but he actually turns out to be a really cool guy. But he is what you think he would be when you see him. Like, he's very proper when he speaks and everything, but he's got a kind of goofy side to him. It's really cool. That's actually one of the coolest things about the con is like you never know what you're going to get. We walked in and met Danny Trejo. Like we walked in the door and we were early admittance. He was standing there and he was just laughing and just so personable and fun to talk to. I love to tell this story though. One of the other hosts of the show, Stewie and I walked in, and the first guest we ever met at a Horrorhound was Roddy Piper, and which was really cool. We met a couple of years before he passed away, and we walk up to him, and we just walked right up. We introduced ourselves, and he shook my hand. He's like, "Hey, nice to meet you." And he looks over at Stu and he goes, "Nice to meet you." And Stu's just like, "Thank you." And he was so starstruck by Roddy Piper. But he did get his They Lives autographed by him and everything. It was just a really cool time. But yeah, it's like you said, you'll come out, you never know what's going to happen at one of these cons, man. It's like some of these actors just get so goofy and have so much fun with being there. And some of them really love just the interaction with their fans. And you'll know right off the bat, the ones who are just like, this is what Michael Rooker, oh my God.
Yeah.
He was nuts. He was out there just hanging out with people, talking to everybody, autographing things. Like he was so cool. And that's the kind of stuff you get when you get to come out to these cons, man. Just the interaction not only with the guests and the other people, but some of the celebs that are out there as well. Or just sometimes it's a once in a lifetime. You know,
here's a great story for you. So we were lucky, and I don't know if we could ever pull this off again. Probably not, but we were lucky enough to host Mads Mikkelsen back. And this was right after Hannibal, but before he blew up. And I knew he was going to too. When I got to interview him for our podcast, and I even said, if you ever get a chance to be in a Marvel movie or Star Wars or something, would that appeal to you? And he goes, "Oh, absolutely. I love all that stuff." And lo and behold, now he's been in both. So it's kind of funny, but he was so laid back. He was just like one of the funnest people, and I got to interact with him a lot, which a lot of times of the shows I'm busy. I don't get to meet the celebrities for more than a minute or two, but I got to actually hang out with him a lot. And so he gets to the show. I hope it's okay to tell this story.
We're fine with it.
If you want us to cut it, Jay will cut it out.
Yeah, if you need me to cut it out, just let us know.
It's fine. So he gets to the show, and we had this really cool idea where I don't know if you've ever seen it's a production photo for Hannibal where there's this table and it's laid out with like a skull and all this like really beautiful like pieces of cheese and fruit and stuff on it. And it's very like elegant. And I was like, I can recreate that for a photo op. How cool would it be if you get to stand next to Mads with like a glass and you're kind of toasting him in front of that table? So I put the table together, and then, Nathan's like, "Oh my God, I never even thought to tell him to bring a suit." And I'm like, "Oh shit, didn't think of that either." So we're like, "You didn't by odd chance bring a suit, did you?" He's like, No, I don't have a suit with me. And we're like, and then the guy at the hotel is like, "Well, the concierge has a suit he could wear." And we're just like kind of looking at him like, Mads Mikkelsen's not going to wear the concierge suit. And then Mads goes, "I'll wear it." And we're like, "Oh, okay. We'll wear it. Oh, yeah." So he was just like really wanted to help us make it happen. So he wore it, and he looked great in it, of course, probably better than anybody else could wear it. And he did the photo op with us, and we're just like, "Oh man, that's so great." And me and Freddie, like I said, got to interview him, and we even got some cool photos of Freddie laying there like he's, his psychiatrist, like talking to Freddie about his problems. And then like with the after hours, I'm standing there with one of my friends, and we're just like, having a drink and taking it in. And all of a sudden here comes Mads walking out on the stage, and he has like a snow blower, and it has like a wire piece on the end of it with like toilet paper. And he's like blowing toilet paper, kind of going back and forth, blowing toilet paper on top of the fans while they're like cheering to the music. And I'm just like, how the hell did that come about? And like you were saying, it's just, you never know what the hell is going to happen at the show. It's just random shit. Real quick, this is a fun story too. I'll try to make this one quick. When we had Corey Haim at the show, for the Lost Boys reunion.
Was there for that one?
After the show, they kind of were like, there was a lot of people from the movie were there, obviously. And then, oh God, here we go with the name thing again. The person who composed the song,
G. Tom Mack.
Thank you.
G. Tom Mack.
Yeah, G. Tom sits down with all of them, and they start this drum circle after the show in the middle of the atrium. Were you guys there for that?
I'll put the video right there on screen. Yeah, we were there. There's video of it on YouTube. Yeah.
Hell yeah. So anyway, that was surreal, man. I was just like, whoa. And like my friends are like, come on. I'm like, no. I'm sitting down right here. This is something you
yeah, you're never going to see that again.
And then sadly losing Corey right after, not long after that. So horrible. But yeah, that was a moment. And I think all of those guys will always remember that too, Yeah. I don't know how often they got to do that.
You keep bringing up stories and we remember them.
We were
and that's
there,
what I mean.
yeah.
You guys got to start coming out to these cons because these things happen and we're like, oh yeah, that was great. We were there for that. It was wonderful. And he's not wrong. It's just, yeah, you get to come out and yeah, you get to buy cool stuff and yeah, you get to get autographs and stuff, but there are little things that just occur throughout the day. And you just get to experience their experiences. You get to have experiences as well. And it's worth it every time. There's always something fun that happens.
Someone asked me, they said, so, how do you get people to not just come get their autographs and buy stuff and go home? And it's like, well, you have to create a weekend. The whole idea is that it's a weekend long of events, so like you don't want to miss anything. I mean, obviously you can't even do everything, even if you wanted to. You can't go to the film festival, all the panels, go to the celebrities, go to the costume contest, go to the after hours. I mean, some stuff, yeah, after hours, the concerts you can, because that's, there's nothing else going on at that time. But, people want to go hang out in their rooms. I know people that they plan all year just to get together with people from like you guys do across the country. Sometimes you just want to go in your room and just hang out with your friends that you don't get to see that often. So it's just it's a tug of war of so much cool stuff going on, but it's throughout the whole weekend. So, it was important to us to not just create a convention, but an event that's all encompassing into those 3 days. So there's something constantly going on.
Yeah. And kind of along those same lines, you guys have premiered some really cool films over the years. And as well as that, do you have any good ones coming up this year? Could you tell us about some you've done in the past, some you might be doing in the future?
I'll be honest, I'm sadly, I don't get to check out too many of the films before the film festival. But one of the things I always do, and that you guys can do and your listeners can do, which is really cool, is if you're at Horrorhound and you're just like, man, I don't want to go sit and watch movies, I want to experience the event. The weekend after Horrorhound, we do what's called Horrorhound Rewind. Okay. And we show select films from the film festival and panels so that, people who miss that stuff can sit home and watch it. And it's like you're almost like catching up on the stuff you missed from the weekend before. So that was a really great idea that Nathan and Joey came up with.
It's a great idea, actually.
I think
cool I might have to do that.
Yeah, so. It's really cool that you guys started that.
Yeah, and then as far as some of the titles, I have some titles that we're going to be screening at this show. Bloody Bridget, Compression, Satanic Soccer Mom from Ohio.
Sounds like a classic. I'm going to have to check that one out.
Cheryl, The Silver Screen 2, Welcome to Horrorwood. Oh. A lot of short films, tons of short films. A Cotton Moon, Caustic, Dead Men, Ride Again, Homecoming. There's a lot of them. If you go on our website, everything's listed with all the times and everything. So we do have people that just come to the show and they literally come just for the film festival. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's what's so cool is that, the film festival itself can be a draw just for people. So that's been something that Zoe Judd, our, who's been running our film festival the last couple of years, she does such a great job of curating and getting really good films. And she has a panel of judges and they help all decide, they work as a collaborative, JK, a lot of people that work on those to get those films for us to screen, as well as the people that contribute films to screen. So film festival festival is a huge part of Horrorhound now, I think. You were saying like some films we've screened in the past. Man, Martyrs, Devil's Candy, Tucker and Dale versus Evil, Hereditary,
Yep.
Candy Corn, the new Subspecies, I think premiered at Horrorhound, Blood Rise,
Yep.
Maniac remake, and all of this stuff really before it hit the mainstream. So that was pretty cool
Yeah.
to be able to some of the
I've
times.
kind of quite a few movies at the con that like ended up becoming some of my favorites. Oh God, what was the one? Blood Sucking something. I saw it a couple years ago. It was about the people that were working. It was like vampires inside a office building, and I can't remember exactly what it was called because
I know which one you're talking about. I can't remember the name of it either. Blood Sucking something.
We'll look it up and we'll put it right there.
Dance of the Dead I saw there. Dance of the Dead is great. Like it's just a really fun zombie movie. I mean, there's so many that I've gotten. Not only did I see there, I ended up purchasing because I loved them so much. Like I ended up getting them on DVD and stuff.
How about Dude Bro Massacre 3?
I didn't catch that one.
You got to check that one out.
Yeah.
That's a
Dude Bro Massacre 3.
Yeah. Actually,
you don't have to watch Dude Bro Massacre 1 or 2 because they don't.
Yeah. There was also one All About Evil that I remember you guys showed up there, and that was actually the first time I actually met Peaches Christ out there, and it was the first drag queen I ever met. Which going back in my memories, I was the first, but not the last. But yeah, thanks to Horrorhound, I have a poster of All About Evil somewhere, and it recently had a resurgence. So
That's awesome.
it's now like widely available.
Yeah, Elvira hosted one of we used to do film festival contests. I mean, those were the events you guys were at as well. And I think the movie Found won that year. Elvira selected it. And I think Peaches was a kind of judge also. I'm not sure. May have just been there for moral support for Elvira. I don't remember. But I have a picture of them both holding Horrorhound magazine, which was pretty cool.
That's cool.
And I love Horrorhound, man. Fantastic film. Highly recommend that one.
Yeah.
I won't go grab my Elvira autograph because it's sitting over there, but she was amazing to meet too. So
I have several of them actually.
She is super.
Awesome.
She is super friendly, super nice. Super amazing to get to meet her. We had a great time talking to her too. So, so we don't want to keep you much longer, but I do want to ask you one more kind of question. Can you give us a breakdown, like what people coming out to the con? What can they expect? What's the vibe like? What is it going to be like for them their first time out?
Fun, friendly, welcoming. Like I said, positive, a lot of positive energy. It's nice, like I said, just to be able to like bring an event like that to people that everybody has fun at. Energy is like, I don't know how to really explain it other than it's just like a lot of excitement, I think people are excited because you're shopping. You're excited because there's all this cool stuff to look at. Like I go crazy. Like I'm walking around. I'm trying to take in all the cosplayers. I'm trying to take in like everything. And there's so much. Like you used to be able to take it all in. Now it's almost impossible. There's cosplayers I see just a blip of them, and then I don't see them again the whole rest of the time. Or I'll like my wife will be sitting there and she's photographing people, like at her booth and like showing me pictures. And I'm like, I didn't even see that. Where is that? Where was that person at? So it's fun, man. Like, I think Matt pointed it out that, everybody, just comes out there and does their thing. I mean, like everybody, there's, again, a lot of people dress up. Yeah. I want to actually, now I think about it, I wanted to go back to the one thing you said about the families. That is such a big thing. Going back to the early horror conventions, there was literally only one little boy that would come to the conventions. And now it's like family after family after family. Yeah. And like the little kids, they know who Jason and Michael and Freddie are probably before they know how to say their ABCs, which is okay. And I don't know. I grew up, I don't know what you guys' background was, but I was always growing up in a very open household. You were allowed to watch pretty much anything you wanted. And I think, personally, and my parents must have believed that if you restrict things from people, it makes them want to see it even more
Yeah, absolutely.
in a way which is not always healthy. So I think when you see parents that, like, I mean, there's little kids that are competing in the costume contest dressed like the Exorcist, like Reagan. And I'm just like, Mom and Dad, watch that, huh? I hope it was the edited version at least, but that's okay. I mean, again,
If they're carrying around a bloody crucifix, maybe it wasn't the edited version.
Okay, yeah, that might be a bit much. Or they come out on stage and start speaking real profanities, but no, I mean, we've seen some pretty adult stuff that kids, at the show are into, and it's, hey, I mean, I'm not gonna tell anybody how to parent, but that's cool, I mean, as long as the kids understand, that it's not real and stuff, which I think they do. I mean, it's impressive to me that so many kids come to the show, because like I see kids that can't even handle spirit, they're screaming and terrified, and our show's far scarier, I think, visually than like a trip to Spirit would be. But a lot of kids are really like brave, I think that's so cool. Like I'll see the kids come out in the costume contest, and like they'll get up there and they'll get the microphone and they'll say lines from the movie, and you're just like, whoa, man, I don't even know if I'd have the guts to do that in front of a group of people. And they do it like with such bravado, and you're just like, wow, that was cool. Little Sam Loomis is up there showing what's up, So yeah, I think it's just fun, man. That's another element. The costume contests are fun to go to. I run those with I have a really great team of people that help me do that, and we have Sasha, Lady Glamourstein, who's like the MC for those, and she's just amazing. She's like was born to freaking host costume contest or something. She's incredible. And she also does these amazing costumes herself as a cosplayer. And Josh is one of our judges. And Josh, he was winning every time. And we're like, okay, dude, you have to be a judge now because you keep winning. It's not fair to the other people. And he still brings a costume every show that just blows everybody away.
That's great.
And he's done Warhammer, Super Shredder, Skeletor. I don't want to spoil it, but I guess I can say I don't want to spoil anything. He's going to be Hellboy at this one, and he makes everything from scratch. It's amazing. And then we have Anastasia. She's one of our judges, and she also does a lot of cosplay. And Mark Phillips, he makes our trophies for the costume contest, and he's a judge, Nightmares Unlimited. He makes the Phantasm spheres that you've probably seen, the metal ones. He is just absolutely incredibly talented. I call him the blacksmith of metal, or of horror. Sorry, black of horror, because he makes all this stuff, craft stuff out of metal. It's amazing. You got one?
No, I got a copy of Phantasm 2 up there on VHS. That as soon as you said Phantasm, I was like, yep, it's off camera, but it's up there.
That's like his favorite movie. He has a Phantasm sphere tattooed on his neck, in fact. But yeah, and I mean, he's just uber talented. So he's a judge too. And like, we always have a great time judging. And then, we have Kelly helps us out, and just, I don't know, it's always a group effort, and everybody's like family to each other. So we have fun. Yep. And I will say, we did move the costume contest. Used to be after hours. We've now moved it to be part of the event itself. It was working better. It works better that way, I think. So a lot of people might be kind of bummed about that, but I mean, you got to think about the costume people that have to sit in that hot costume for hours on end, waiting, all night, and then they want to have fun too. So, I mean, it's a catch-22. You can't please everybody, but it just works better this way. Plus, I always felt like the costume contest is more part of the Horrorhound weekend event anyway. So it's kind of nice to host it there, have the space and the correct room to do it. Everybody can see the costumes better too. So,
yeah,
and
I'm
way off subject, but yeah, I don't know.
That's what
so
we
much
do.
has changed. So much has changed since the beginning. So what might have made sense years ago might not make sense anymore. And you guys have to shuffle things around according to what does make sense now. And I could see back in the early days doing like things like the costume contest as an after hours, but like you said, there's so many people that come now that it does make more sense to kind of do it as part of the actual, just the daily festivities thing. So
And then this show, obviously, we got the hotel or convention center, I should say, has expanded. So this is going to be a different show for everybody because we've never done the show since they've expanded it. So if you can imagine the vendor hall, imagine it's 2 times that size now.
Wow.
Jeez.
It was big before.
I was gonna say I was there last year, last
yeah.
March, and I walked, and it was the first one I had been to in, God, I don't know, probably close to 10 years. Just because, you know, being out in Kansas City, going to Cincinnati or Indianapolis doesn't always work out. And I walked in, and I was just like, oh my God, this is not what I remember last time I was here. It was way bigger, and they tried warning me ahead of time. They're like, it's a lot bigger. I got there and just blown away, and I was really excited the whole time. And we saw you on the way out, and yeah, it was pretty cool. I had a great time. I got a lot of stuff. Actually, some of the stuff that's behind me, I actually got at that Horrorhound. So
yeah, it's a good time.
Yeah,
we want to recommend anybody, if you're even considering coming out, come out. I will warn you, tickets are selling out. So if you're going to do it, buy them now. Cause, you know, you want to get
going
in
fast.
I know they sell it at the door too, but don't wait for that. Buy them ahead of time, cause you want to secure your spot. Yeah, if you've considered it, head out. You're going to have a good time. We will be there. We've been going for a long time. It is coming up here in a couple of weeks. It's March. What is that? 22nd, 23rd, and 24th. Do I have that right?
I think so.
I think that's right.
We'll put it right there on the screen.
I think that's right. I know it's the weekend.
Look at the screen.
Yeah.
I think it's the weekend of the 22nd, 23rd, and 24th.
It is the weekend. Yeah, that's what I say because I couldn't remember the 21, 22nd. It's that weekend.
Yeah.
There you go.
I of course know it's coming up that weekend, but dates, I'm not very good with those. But seriously, we recommend everybody coming out. Don't be shocked if you see Aaron walking around, because you will. You probably won't get to talk to him because he's probably rushing from one thing to another. But he'll wave at you. Just yell, "Hey, Aaron!" He'll wave.
Yeah. I throw the metal.
Yeah, Matt has some experience with that.
Shut up.
He yelled at Nathan, and I don't think Nathan knew who.
I don't think it was a yell.
You yelled, "Hey, Nathan," or whatever. And they've met, but it's been years.
It's been
Matt
a
said,
long time.
Yeah. Nathan just looked at him and was like, "Hey." I mean, I don't know you, but I'm going to say hey to you.
Yeah.
It was pretty great.
Now that's where the normal response ends. And then what I did was not the normal response. So,
that's not normal.
Yeah. So I tend to make it as awkward as possible. And that's exactly what I did with Nathan. So, and he wasn't the only one. I did it to D. Wallace.
Not that we did. No, there were other people you made it very awkward with, but it's great stories for the rest of us to tell. So,
oh yeah.
We've actually had Aaron on the show before, and we hope to have him back again here soon after the con's over, because I know you get slammed during it, but he's come on and done. We do these Twisted Kids. We talk about street trash. I actually had a lot of people reach out to me after that and be like, "I'm gonna go watch Street Trash," and I'm like, "Okay,
have fun."
That's the beauty of it, is turning people on to crazy movies. Absolutely, that's my favorite thing in the world. In fact, I already thought of a film for us to watch when I come back home.
Good.
Right?
All right.
You know what it is? I picked something that was a little bit more your guys' speed, I hope. Tammy and the T-Rex.
Oh, we just talked about this. I've never seen it, and I brought it up to Matt the other day. I was like, "We need to watch the Tammy and the T-Rex movie."
By the way, yeah,
that's perfect because
that works out great.
I've never seen it, but I saw a preview for it. And I'm like, "Oh my god!"
All right, good.
Yep.
So, for anybody wondering what that is,
that one.
We will pick out a bizarre movie and we will watch it together and commentate. That's kind of what we do. And we did Street Trash with Aaron before, and we'd never seen that one. I know Matt is seeing Tammy and the T-Rex, but I have never seen it, so this will be my first viewing. So be looking forward to that. Aaron, thank you so much for coming on again with us. I hope that everybody comes out, goes to the con, has a really good time there. You can get a tattoo there if you want to as well.
Yes. Oh shit, I didn't even mention the tattoo. See, there's so much stuff. I can't.
There's so much stuff. so
Yeah.
much, and it's
Yeah,
it's,
in fact,
it's a
the
crazy good time.
tattoo room is expanded this year. So the room that the tattoo room. All right, let me try to say this right. The area that the tattoos were in, there were celebrities in the same area. That's all tattoos now. So
Nice.
we've expanded. It's like double size. So yes, and you can go online to figure out how to schedule your tattoos also in advance
And these are
if they have slots.
these are genuinely like fantastic tattoo artists, guys. We're not like you're not going on this isn't a weekend trip to Gatlinburg where you happen to get a tattoo. These guys are like really good artists. That's why you need to kind of schedule some stuff. So you're telling me I can't get a tattoo while looking in Jack Osborne's eyes again? It's like, how you doing, Jack? I'm getting this one for you. No, I can't do that this year.
I feel like there's a backstory that you did that.
No,
and
I
if not,
didn't,
I
but
really
Jack
hope you
Osborne
did.
was in there last year. I talked to Jack Osborne for a
Yeah,
few
it was
minutes. He was
great.
cool. He was a cool dude.
Every lie.
Guys, horrorhoundweekend.com is where you can go to find out about the con. Is it just horrorhound.com where you can find out about the magazine, right? It's just horrorhound.com, I think. You can go to horrorhound.com and that'll get you to the weekend too. I mean, you'll find connections and all that. They are all over Facebook. There are multiple fan sites on fans of Horrorhound Weekend sites on Facebook. So you can go on there and find stuff out too. We're going to put stuff in all the show notes. But like I said, come out, check it out, have a good time, buy some cool stuff, meet some cool people. So again, Aaron, thank you so much for coming on, man. We really appreciate it. And we look forward to speaking to you again here soon.
Thank you guys for having me on. Appreciate it.
No problem.
Until Tammy and the T-Rex.
That's so cool that you said that.
Thank you for watching the mixtape. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Click the bell icon for notifications when new videos come out. And remember to always stay awesome.